Welcome to the It's Never You podcast. My name is Ceri Davis, a bereaved father to a child that lost his life far too early to cancer. I've seen the worst that life can offer, but we'll use this platform to show that positivity can come from adversity. On this podcast, there will be guests that have faced adversity, people that have had challenges and life-changing situations, and also how they've turned their negativity into positivity. Ultimately, we hope it's never you, but if it is, we're here for you. Guys, welcome. This is Ollie Patrick. He is how would you best describe yourself?
Oh, too long. A physiologist and wellbeing expert.
Okay, and so what I spoke to Ollie, obviously with everything that we're doing for the charity, I wanted to make sure that parents can get the best advice possible that they can do. And when I spoke to you, I said there are certain things that when I went for the treatment with Hugh that I was lacking, and things that I wanted to do better, and things that I thought I did well, but things that I knew I did badly. Yeah. And like I say, there's nothing available on the NHS. Literally, when I sat there on your own, you're in a minefield, you're on social media, you're on Google, you're on Facebook. I come off most of it. Yeah. So when I followed you at the start of, just after Hugh passed, unfortunately, through our mutual friend Harry, and some of your stuff, I was like, wow, I need to get on board. So we got you in, and we're going to find out some information on what parents can do better.
That's what I hope.
Okay, so what is wellbeing, Ollie?
It's a killer first question, because it's contextual, right? So well-being to you when you're in one of the hardest situations imaginable is very different to well-being to me, not in that situation. So context is crucial, but broadly well-being is one of the most misunderstood subjects out there. The definition of well-being is a state of being comfortable, healthy or happy, right, which is why the biggest contributor to well-being globally is skin creams. Okay. Because it's not really, doesn't mean anything. Okay. So my definition of well-being really is about this idea of energy, which comes back to lots of things we've talked about. Yep. You know, what are the factors in my lifestyle that would mean I've got more available energy? Which is crucial when looking after a child undergoing treatment, because you need, obviously, I use this analogy quite a lot, the oxygen mask syndrome, you need to put yours on first before you can help the child next to you. Absolutely. And you need to be on top of the game, looking after, which is like one of the reasons why I reached out. And I think, again, too many people are selling a solution, saying well-being is a product, or a pill, or a meditation. I want to take a little step back from that and say, what are the factors that we can control that might enable me to have more energy? And that energy could be the energy that we talked about in terms of waking up feeling knackered. That energy to be driven to make a food choice for something you know isn't going to help you. Been there. But you want it. I need it. You need it. Jam donuts. And you do need a jam donut. So where do I make the energy to make a better choice or override the natural choice that my body wants to make, which is a donut? But also, where's that energy that helps me when it really falls apart to not go too deep into the rabbit hole? Yeah, which is stuff that has happened and you just feel low after it. Enormously. And energy, you know, there's three real domains in which energy expresses. Your physical energy, which would be fatigue. How knackered am I? My mental energy, which is that brain fog. So I just can't make good decisions, and you'll know you're being given highly technical information. Stressful information at the same time. Massively stressful. And you've got to make decisions, big decisions. So you want clarity of mental energy. And then there's emotional energy. You know, you and I have spoken about how many marriages break down under situations of children being unwell. What is my ability to give love, to receive love, to form quality relationships or sustain them? And that goes back to the ability to communicate and handle things well alongside it, which is all intertwined with each other. All intertwined. So, you know, when we talk about energy, we're saying, have I got the energy to get up out of bed? Have I got the mental ability to make good decisions? Have I got the emotional ability to sustain quality relationships in amongst the period where they could naturally fall away? And what we're interested with lifestyle is what are the factors that would enable those three things to be better than they might be without those factors. I mean, I was saying all these things just come so important to parents. I mean, when Hugh first got diagnosed, the only thing that I wanted to hear to start with was a plan. I remember all I'm saying, is there a plan, is there a plan? I remember saying to the nurse, have you got a plan? And because all the plan means is that they're going to treat him. I remember saying that, and then you're trying to pick your wife up at the same time. I remember staying positive, saying, come on, they got a plan, we stay positive. And then the next thing was like, oh, okay, I haven't eaten for 48 hours. I'm starving, I need to look after myself. So I went back straight to John Lewis. I remember this now, went straight to John Lewis. And my wife we were during COVID when Hugh got diagnosed. So we went, and I remember we were doing 5 days on, 5 days off. So she spent 5 days solid with him.
I remember going to John Lewis in Cambridge. I must have spent £200 on the Elemis counter. I bought her frangipane candles. But you know, because I thought when she goes home, she's going to need to relax, have a bath and just chill out. So I thought, right, okay, let's go a bit self-love.
Yes.
And that's the first thing, actually, someone, not the nurse who said it or doctor said it, someone said to me, self-love now, look after yourself.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done because I was not eating, like I said to you when I first had it, I took greens powder in the morning, Barocca. I thought, okay, let's do some good in the morning, but then had 15 coffees and a Burger King at night. So I was out doing everything and also not sleeping. And one of the things we talked about is, when you're not sleeping, what can you do to get energy? Because obviously it's the ultimate, as everyone you read on Instagram and things, sleep is the key. What can you do? If you had a newborn baby, you don't get sleep. Child going through this, you don't get sleep because your mind's running 1,000,000 miles an hour. What can you do to help sleep for parents?
And it's a massive challenge. You know, first and foremost, the body, believe it or not, and you'll know it, is designed for periods of long stress. We are designed for childbirth is a big, long, prolonged stress where we won't get as much sleep as usual, we won't get as much exercise as usual, we won't nourish ourselves as much as usual. So we're not the sort of machine that falls over if it doesn't get everything it needs every 24 hours, every 72 hours, every week, every month.
We can handle things.
We have a reserve.
So as parents, they know, like, God forbid, a parent goes through this, and now our parents going through it, they know that they can go through this.
There is a reserve.
There is a reserve.
There's a reserve. And again, the more habits and behaviours we have that support that reserve, the better. But the human body was designed for war. It was designed for famine. It was designed for childbirth. It was designed for things that didn't solve themselves overnight. And in those periods, it assumed that I would have terrible sleep. Right? And terrible sleep is often a byproduct of chronic stress because if we think of stress in the old days, it used to be a physical threat. So, you know, particularly war. So the body's stress response was always keeping me ready for some kind of threat. And if I fall asleep, I'm more vulnerable to that threat. So if I
get eaten back in the day, I suppose, early on in
you'd be eaten,
human life,
potentially eaten. You know, potentially.
So you're ready to wake up at any time.
You've got to be ready, and the same as when you have a baby, right? So you don't sleep well because you won't let your body go to deep sleep when you wouldn't hear the child crying. So you disable some of the things, and in deep sleep, that's when you consolidate memory. That's when your immune system builds up. So it's this really paradoxical situation that the period of time where you need great thinking and you need great immune system, it sort of falls off a cliff. So I think first thing first is, you know, no one's going to sleep well in these situations, right? So can I sleep a little better? You know, so the routines around sleep massively affect it, and you'll know it's so difficult after a day when you've been, you know, in a swamp to not go to social media.
But it's not just that. When you go into hospital as well, and you're consumed, you are tired and you do want to fall asleep, you're not allowed to fall asleep because you'll be lying next to your child in hospital bed, they will be sleeping because they're exhausted on chemotherapy. But it's the nurses nudging past you, waking you up every 5 minutes, and it's the bells going off, it's the change of bags, it's a change of flush in a day. And I remember we had a chat talking about sort of things like mindfulness and meditation, how that can help.
It can help enormously. You want to say, look, if I can do something to get me 5, 6, 7 hours of quality sleep, then I should look to do that. If that simply isn't possible, then little pockets of energy restoration work quite well. Years ago, a study showed if you did a quality power nap, which is 20 minutes, so we don't actually go into a full sleep cycle, which will be about 90 minutes, but 20 minutes, I don't get into bed, I stay in a nice comfy chair with my eyes lightly closed, keep some keys in my hand, so if I actually fall asleep, the keys in my hand wakes me up. And the value of that 20 minutes in light, restful thing, where I'm just literally letting myself go between waking and sleeping, has some of the restorative benefit of 8 hours sleep. So power nap's brilliant. Meditation, I thought was a fluffy old thing.
I know full well that it works.
It genuinely works. And I was a skeptic as a physiologist that meditation would sit amongst things like walking or exercising or eating vegetables or, you know, or 7 hours sleep. I've seen people where they added quality meditation. That might be 5 minutes on an app, that might be 20 minutes with a mantra, and changed so much of their physiology, but particularly energy.
So we talk about meditation. If you were to tell a parent sort of best bang for buck, how can they get the best or the most meaningful meditation? What can they do? What would you say?
It's a good question. I think, you know, again, it's different strokes for different folks. So finding a voice that doesn't annoy you. Something you might want a male voice, you might want a female voice, you might want a Matthew McConaughey.
Definitely.
So I think, you know, your market leaders are Headspace and Calm, and they're both, you know, enormously accessible with free trial periods. You know, it's 5 minutes of listening to someone telling you you're on a beach, up to 10 minutes of controlling breath work. You know, Vedic meditation, where it gets a bit more hardcore, is 20 minutes twice a day. That's the one where you have a mantra. So you're given a word that's normally got 2 syllables from Sanskrit. It could be anything. And you basically say that word in your head repeatedly for 20 minutes.
Right.
And that's, if you like, your pure end of meditation.
So just a question, how would meditation get that restfulness for the parent?
That's a good question. So two parts. First part is breathing is an amazing antidote to stress.
Okay.
So when I get heightened levels of stress or pressure, I breathe a little bit shallower and a bit more from my upper chest.
Okay.
If my body can breathe slower, so in through the nose, slowly out through the mouth, and I can breathe a bit more from my belly, it literally pulls on a nerve that de-stresses me.
Okay.
You know, years ago we used to give people, when they were scared of public speaking or flying, beta blocker pills. People still do, and it's a pill that literally slows down your physiology. Breathing slows down your physiology.
Right.
So if someone's having a panic attack on a plane, you can get them to slow their breathing and they come out of it. Now that hasn't changed the fact they're terrified of flying or terrified of dying.
Yeah.
So breathing has taken away the thought.
Okay.
So we often think, I've got to change the way I think to change my stress.
Right.
What we can do is change the way we feel, which sends a message up going, well, if I feel this calm, that can't be that bad.
Okay.
So breathing is the first powerful weapon within meditation. Two is often the visualization or mindfulness. So mindfulness comes from the fact, you know, you'll remember this with Hugh, so much of your life is living in the future.
Yeah.
Right? You are, if that doesn't happen, that happens, and that.
And I always trying to centre myself, because you never know what's going to happen.
Totally.
And your mind can run away, and also you can't hang about in the past because it's happened.
Totally. So good well-being is in the present, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not ruminating on the misdiagnosis or that we were slow into that, because that holds me in something I can't control.
Yeah.
Nor am I catastrophizing to, this is going to be awful, what am I going to say to that?
And what's the future look like?
Because I can't control that either.
No.
So the real power of mindfulness, particularly above other forms of meditation, is, as you sit here now, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And if, you know, your child is unwell, they're still with you at that time. Trying to be in that present is so critical, so difficult. Right?
It's difficult. I've been there. But you're staying in the, you're not worrying about what happens in the future. And you, like I say, I remember sitting there many a time going, oh, I wish this never happened, or should I have looked at this, or were there signs beforehand that I could have seen? Yeah. But you can't. I remember one of the consultants saying, just stay in this present, enjoy what's happening now, as much as you can.
Easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. And subsequent to Hugh not being here anymore, a couple of parents have reached out to me, and dads especially reached out to me and say, how do you get through things like that? And the first thing I said, stay in the present.
Stay in the present.
You never know what's happening in the future.
Absolutely.
And one of the big questions that I said to you as well, I know the meditation and the helpfulness of it all, is also where I think staying in the present is there, but also staying positive in the present.
Yep.
I mean, it's very easy to say staying positive in a time when negative news is flying at you.
Yes.
But I say to my wife, the glass is half full. It's not half empty. You got to stay when they're telling you things are. I remember getting things about Hugh, them talking to me saying, "This is happening." But I said, "But they're telling you what's happening, what's good."
Yes.
Doctors won't tell you anything that they don't want you to know, and that's the hardest thing in the setting. And they'll never tell you anything positive, but when they do, take it and accept it, and just say, okay, let's take the positives of it. Don't listen to the negative, although the negatives are hard. But take the positive stuff, and it is hard. And it, like I say, but staying in the present and staying positive in the present. And I'm like, have you got anything like you can recommend to a parent to stay positive?
That's a tough one.
Because it's really hard, because it's mindset.
Mindset is harder to shift than physiology. So my first approach is, can I do as much through physiology as possible and see where that leaves my mindset? You know, you and I have both spoken about the value of counselling, the value of speaking to someone. To reshape the way I think is tough, right? I'm in my mid-40s. You want me to suddenly change the way I think? That is tough. The way I think may be being influenced by loads of stress hormones, being knackered. So I'm knackered. I'm not going to be thinking positively. No, if you keep me awake for 2 days, you know, on those SAS stress programs, no one on day 3 is going to have good quality emotional relationships, good quality thinking. So sometimes we try and treat the way we think without first addressing the way we feel. I think, you know, we are definitely talking about all these actions running parallel to talking therapy or sharing. Which I 100%, it's not for everyone, I said this, not for everyone, but I so recommend it. And it's like I said, we went back, I explained to you the new partnership we have a Mind Up, where I was speaking to people at this event on Saturday where actually dads and mums were saying, I've never spoken to anyone. They listen to people on the phones and just speak to someone anonymously who can listen to you unbiased and give you advice. So you can unload. You can only take so much as a human. Totally. But you can get through things. But you can only take. You need to unload. You need to unload. It really does help. And like I say, it goes back to everything. Is preparing yourself
to deal with these situations bit by bit, isn't it? Like the feed, like eating and the hydration. We talked about hydration and things like that, and staying positive.
Yeah.
This all leads into everything helps your mental health.
It's all, your mental health isn't separate from physical health. It's an extension of. So, if we're in this situation, we want an emotional outlet. Now that might be you've got an amazing friend who can listen properly, but if your friends have run out of things to say and it's becoming difficult for them, professional support there, same a la spouse. But irrespective of talking about it and getting that mindset shift, can I increase my ability to have more energy? And really what we're talking about here is there are certain things that might give us 1-2% benefit in that area. And again, if I can let's go back to meditation, if I can meditate and restore some of the energy I lost when I didn't sleep, if I can meditate and take my mindset out of really thinking about all the terrible things that may happen but haven't happened yet, that becomes just a logical thing to say, right, I may not be a meditation type guy, but I'm not going to, if the word is wrong, meditation is harnessing quick and accessible energy to improve my ability to deal with the thing that's going on. And that makes it a quality tool.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe what's worth saying is like, maybe we should talk about things that I did during that time, and then what you think I could have done better. All right, it's a tough because you're doing anything at the time. So we had this chat, like I would take greens powder in the morning because I listened to some podcast that told me to take greens powder. It said it's best to get all the nutrients. So I took that. Expensive, but I took it nonetheless. Barocca, it says you're going to get energy. I did that. But then living off 15 coffees a day. And having a Burger King in the evening for dinner. That was my go-to for about 3 days. And also picking up the remnants of whatever Hugh wanted to eat, because this is a big thing. That's people who don't understand people having chemotherapy, especially child, their tastes change. And if you're financially able to do so, you would just buy them anything you want to eat. So I remember going like M&S and just buying Hugh everything. Like he wanted jelly meerkats, donuts. And I'd be sitting in a room full of them. I'd be like, oh, I'm hungry now. I'm tired. Let's have some Percy Pigs. But ultimately, I knew at the end of the day, I had heartburn. I wasn't sleeping. I felt awful after. So, like talking about how I went around that, what would you say? Like coffee, hydration, sugar levels. What should I do? What would help me?
There's a lot to unpick there. I think first of all, anything that gets you through. But this isn't
I get
about
that.
Guilting people. As you well know. It's about the opportunity of, is there things I could have done that got me more
But these
energy?
things, sometimes you're in hospital for like 7 months, so I understand the first week of diagnosis is like traumatic, but you can get into a habit when your child's stabilised. What can you then prep? Do you know that you can go to certain things that you know you should do in hospital to eat and drink, like avoiding caffeine, avoiding sugar? Is there anything that you can...
It's a challenge. Well, comes caffeine in a minute, because people who can live without caffeine in those situations are pretty rock star. They're rare and difficult to find. I think let's unpick that bit by bit. You took athletic greens. There's a logic to saying, look, I can't focus that much on the moment on getting 7 portions of veg, a rainbow diet. So forget that, I'm just going to bang in some nutrients so I don't become malnourished.
And vitamin D I was taking, lots of.
Totally logical. And again, it's difficult to pick a nutrient profile that suits every single person, but having a broad scale multi-nutrient, either in powder form or as a capsule, is totally logical. So you're not going, oh, I haven't had enough vitamin D or I haven't got enough B vitamins. So something like a broad scale multi-nutrient like athletic greens plus a multivitamin is totally logical. It won't replace a good diet because it doesn't have the fibre, doesn't have some of the other benefits.
It could be a fallback in the short space of time.
Why would you not? So there's within that, I think that's a brilliantly logical thing. Does Barocca give you energy? I don't want to get sued by Barocca. Barocca's full of B vitamins, and B vitamins are critical to energy production. So in the same sense of, I don't want to be waking up and not have energy because I've got no B vitamins available to my cells. So I might as well cover it off. I may not be eating loads of nuts or loads of quality lean proteins. So I think we've got to bear in mind, you're not going to eat your best diet in this period of time.
And it's not available to you in the shops either.
It's not available. So having some nutritional kickstart in the morning, totally logical. Beholdency to caffeine is totally logical too, right? Because you're knackered. So fatigue is a feedback mechanism. If I'm tired, my body is basically saying, Ollie, you didn't do enough things to give me energy the last day, 2 days, 2 weeks. And then my body will go, because I'm tired, I want caffeine because I know that gives me
And it's also habitual as well, because you try and incorporate things that you do at home So I go and get me coffee in the morning and things like that, and you make sure it's the strongest one available that they sell.
Totally, and you might need, now the challenge we've got with coffee, there's multiple challenges, but let's be clear, its biggest challenge is its disruption to sleep.
Right.
So caffeine's got a half-life of around 8 hours, that'll depend on your genetics, whether it stays in your system longer, or it comes out your system quicker. Well, we all know someone who has a double espresso before bed, falls asleep like a light, and there's someone else who has a coffee mid-morning and has the jitters all day.
I get it.
So there's a genetic difference, but basically if you're having caffeine after lunch, it's going to compromise your ability to get into quality sleep. So we've got to bear that in mind, that it's a bit of a trick. So I'm buying false energy and then I'm killing my best natural source of energy.
So parents in hospital, if they're staying over with their child, try and limit coffee after 12?
Without a doubt. And again,
so go to decaf.
Can you go to decaf? Can you go to an alternative? You know, can you flip it into a herbal tea? We know
chamomile before sleep. I've heard it's got
chamomile's rock star before sleep. Right. So here we take something that might be a negative, like a cup of tea, which is also caffeinated. Green tea also caffeinated. But chamomile, we have something that may be associated with calming the brain down. And working to take away that tension from a body that's been breathing a bit like this all day. And naturally, the alternative to chamomile would be alcohol. Right. So one of the biggest challenges is it's difficult to fall asleep when you're tired but wired. So if I am in that hyper stress state, I've been over caffeinated, I've eaten too many refined sugars, some of that processed food, then my natural tendency will be alcohol because it drops my tension. So it feels like I'm getting a sort of a thumb massage, and that helps me fall asleep quicker. Now falling asleep quicker is different to deep sleep, which is where I store my energy. So alcohol's the biggest trick sold in stressful times. Because, you know, if you watch any TV drama, someone has a stressful day.
Has a whiskey when they come home.
Whiskey when they come home, glass of wine. It's a muscle relaxant, not a system relaxant. So it's actually a stimulant, which is why if you drink too much of it, you stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Also can be detrimental to mental health as well at the same time, which is
enormous.
I gave up drinking. I've 2.5 years now. I did it through COVID, but actually I continued during when Hugh's treatment. And even to this day now, I try to manage my variables. And it's not the drinking, because everyone says, I have a drink to relax you. No, it's the day after I worry about the drink. And that's what especially with the parents, it's the day after. It's being vulnerable the day after and not putting yourself in a position where stress can let you get the better of you with a hangover. And I just thought there can't be two worst enemies together.
It is the thing you are most driven to, and it's the worst thing at that period of time, you know, and you know, it's challenging. How much of that hangover is the removal of sleep quality? A massive portion, and that can be on literally one beer, one whiskey. So everyone again's got their own sensitivity threshold. But if I measure the sleep of someone who's had one beer, one whiskey, I will see less deep sleep. And that deep sleep is when they were going to do a lot of the processing. And some of that is emotional processing of all the traumas that are going on. So I wake up the next day and I haven't had that processing, plus I've got the fatigue, then I over caffeinate. Caffeine is chemically the same as adrenaline, which I'm already making too much of. So that's going to heighten that jittery feeling, which can feed into anxiety. And if we end up in that sort of hyper caffeinated, alcohol in the evening, refined food situation, ironically, you know, those things are what bodies are craving, but they are making the situation worse. Now, some of those things are emotional support, so we've got to be careful we don't suddenly take away something that is someone's coping mechanism. But if we can slowly tweak out
there's a few lot of zero alcohol beer now, which can taste the same as a beer.
Amazing.
So which is I sometimes taste just a taste of it again. But without the sort of the lack of benefit of it. But yeah, like I say, there's lots of things. I remember parents like coming home and just having a bottle of wine. Like talking to me about it. I say, oh, I don't want to do that. No. But you're trying to talk them out of it. So no, it's my relaxant.
It is the right, and again, it may be a coping mechanism, but it's a counterintuitive coping mechanism. Now again, it might help people switch off, you know, and it's an intelligent form of muscle relaxation and distraction, which is why it's most people's go-to. Can I find another form of distraction? You know, it might be wild. Can it be?
Might be actually getting some physical exercise.
Physical exercise will work on so many different levels. Could it be a sport or a game? Something that totally draws me into the moment. So I'm only thinking of the thing. You know, again, lots of people when they're running overthink, or cycling overthink. Not so if they're playing table tennis or something a bit more structured. So we need to find a way in which I can be focused distraction. And that might be someone's meditation rather than saying a Sanskrit word time and time again. But I think, you know, when we look at alcohol as a coping mechanism, we will run into trouble with that at some point. And if I can find something else that relaxes me and something else that distracts me, then I tick off those two boxes.
So Ollie, just want to say thank you for having this chat today. One of the first things I set out when I did It's Never You with my wife is that we really wanted to just make everything to parents so much simpler during the process. It's hard enough without having any support, like we said, mentally, physically and financially. And one of the things I wanted to put right was, let's help these guys, because no one's asked to be in this position, and there's no one offering the parents anything. And as a parent that's been through it and come out, unfortunately, on the bad side of it, I just thought, let's put something back. So, and I was really appreciative when you said, we'll have a chat about it all. But there's one final question that I'd like to really talk about, which is kind of a taboo subject. And as being a male, and you're a male, is the topic of mental health for men. It's very rare that I've spoken to quite a few dads, and they don't really discuss it about reaching out for help and talking to people. And one of the big things that I was a bit unsure about when he was going through it is that, without sounding sexist, it was a very female dominated area, the charities and the support giving to parents. Ultimately, it is the mother that looks after the child in the hospital setting, and dads would come in, especially during COVID. We would do 5 days at a time, although COVID things have settled down in the ward, so parents can sit them together. But I remember a charity reaching out to me, and a lad phoned me up, and I said this in the first phone conversation I had with you. I said to him, he phoned me up, young lad, and he said, "Hi, Ceri, your wife said you'd like to speak to me." And I said, "Okay, have you got children?" He went, "No." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "But in that sense, you haven't got a child who's undergoing treatment for cancer, and you haven't really got an idea of what it's like to be a parent in the first instance, because you speak to all new parents, there's like a overwhelming sense of, wow, I never knew this, you could feel like this about anything." And then being diagnosed, your child that you'd give everything to, diagnosed with a awful disease like cancer. I just said, look, I don't think I can speak to you. And that's why we went about setting this up. But I've spoken to lots of dads since, but they don't reach out because they're frightened of doing it. And I'm the first advocate to say counselling helps, reaching out helps. There's only so much you can take.
Yeah.
And being in a family setting where it's yourself, your wife and your children and your parents and your wife's parents and your friends and your child's friends' parents, they all want to know, and they're all asking you the same question, what's going on? And you can only take so much, but it's one of the things, how would you know, we talked about the role of counselling and stuff. It's imperative for dads and men and women as such to reach out.
Yeah.
Even if it's not for counselling, but just to reach out. There's loads of numbers available that they can speak to. And even if it's, like I say, coming on our platform, speaking to other parents that are going through it, and that's why we set the platform up. What's your thoughts as a professional in the industry about reaching out, and how can it benefit people?
It's the key thing, right? So in mental health management, and again, I'm a physiologist taking a physiology up approach. But we know communicating about how you feel sits at the heart of any well-being strategy. You know, and I think men have historically been much more reactive in that. Right, so that it's got to get to a level where the pain is so significant before the first conversation's held. I'm fundamentally a preventative health professional, and therefore I want people to start intervening on things going wrong earlier. And there's no situation where communicating out isn't going to help. Now, your circle of friends may not have the empathetic skills or communication skills.
I'll be honest with you, I found they had young kids, and the last thing that any other dad, I know this from experience, last thing that a parent wants to talk about who's not going through it is cancer and child in the same sentence. They'd run a mile, and so would I. I would have run a mile. Before October the 23rd, 2020, if someone had said to me those two words together, I would have shut the conversation down. I'd turn off the TV, I couldn't watch the adverts, and all of a sudden you enter into this world, and then you're in it, but none of your peers understand it. Their first world problems are things that you long to be. So like when saying, oh, my child's football boot's gone missing, or he didn't play well at football today, I'd give anything to do that.
Absolutely.
And I remember having a conversation at Christmas time once, they were moaning about going to a pantomime. About that, I was like, wow, do you know what? That's something I'd long to do. And I couldn't engage with those in everyday conversations. And this is part of the reason why we set the platform up, was because the only person that understood it was someone going through it.
Totally. You need a peer support, right? So, and a peer may not be then your friendship group. Now, they're also stuck in a situation they don't know what to do, because their lives are still ticking along, and that small stress is still a stress to them. So you end up with this nightmare where they can't communicate, you can't communicate. So I think peer-to-peer support has enormous value, as does professional support. And that reduces your need for that group to provide that for you. So suddenly you can go there.
So you can just be friends with them.
So you can actually talk about the football. Because you're not beholden to them to step up.
And the elephant's out of the room.
Elephant's out of the room. So I think the peer-to-peer support, which is why I love what you're doing with this program, is it's so difficult to find those peers. You know the strength of relationship you build when you meet another dad in a hospital, and people who went through this during COVID didn't have that.
No.
You know, I'm still friends with parents I met in the intensive care unit when my twins were born. You know, because in that moment you bond, you're both going through the same thing.
And there's people in this world that understand the same stresses that you go through, and they don't understand the intensity of it all.
Exactly.
Obviously, when the intensity of everything, you share it with people, and someone outside of that four walls, can't even describe to you what you're feeling, and you can't, and also you don't want to describe to them.
Exactly. So let's not expect them to do it.
Yeah.
So let's have professional support, because I'm desperately in need of sharing what I'm feeling, peer-to-peer support to share what's going on, and then your friendship group to be exactly what you need, you know, a relief. You know, life can't be lived entirely in this domain.
What I will say is that counselling doesn't have to be at the point where you're going to kill yourself.
Early,
but it doesn't have to be like that. It's not when you get counselling. You can get counselling, and what I get counselling because I just felt like I couldn't talk to anyone, and also I didn't want to burden anyone with what I was talking about. And the first moment I spoke to a counsellor and a therapist, I come out. I'll be honest, I cried, because not just because I was emotional about what happened to Hugh. It was just the fact that actually someone listened to me, and I felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders.
Yes.
I can actually be a dad. And be a husband and stuff like that, because I actually could function and I could talk to them. Then what happens, because I was emptying it, the bottle was emptying, I could actually go home, listen to what my wife wanted to talk to me about it, go and sit on the floor and play with my younger son, and then go to his school and speak to my mum and dad, his grandparents and other people, and just actually sort of listen to what they want to talk to me about, because they wouldn't go for help because they were on the periphery of it, or they were still affecting them all. But you could actually be that person that they could go to you. And what I found, what we did with the charity was that I immersed myself in this because I just felt like people needed to know this stuff, and that no one really talks about it because it's a taboo subject. And that's where mental health really does. It opens up so many doors for people that are struggling that they don't know they're struggling.
You know, there's that key, but everyone has mental health. We shouldn't just address mental health at the disordered end with mental ill health. We're all on a spectrum from absolutely flourishing to falling over. If you're not exactly where you want to be, professional support, right?
And there's so many different types of professional, from CBT to...
It's not for you to solve that. That's where peer-to-peer, you know, what did you did counselling, someone else saw a psychotherapist, someone else was at a level they needed a psychiatrist. It's a bit of a minefield, and again, that's where, you know, you sharing experiences, peer-to-peer experiences on the platform, or that first session they get for free, it gives you a toe in the water, but no one's going to feel worse for going to talk to someone. And so it's just getting rid of the stigma that you've only do it when it's level
a lot of the problems I think people do think is if they go to counselling, it's going to open up a minefield of issues that they've had. But a good counsellor will titrate them out of you. They won't do it all in one go. And what we said, that Mind Up platform that we partnered, which is, I think, is totally innovative, and we're, I think, the first charity to actually fund a counselling session for people. Having spoken to parents in that area, it was just like something I could see their eyes light up. Wow, there's someone I could speak to. But and on that platform there's 100 different people that you can speak to at different areas, and male and female. But I just think, like, I'm an advocate of it. It's not for everyone, but just to speak to someone.
I think men are just generally worse at women in terms of getting to the pain point later. It needs to be a certain level before they start talking therapy. Again, if we're running all these things, we're looking after the way we eat, we're looking after the way we move, we're looking after the way we sleep, and we're looking after the way we think, we give ourselves a better chance at optimizing energy. So I think talking therapy before it's needed is absolutely a critical part of that strategy.
Ollie, it's been amazing today. Honestly, I appreciate it so much. You get up so many people with your information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're doing
Cheers.
Great work. Good stuff.
Thanks, guys. If you know someone that has a story to tell, please email us at help@itsneveryou.com. Meanwhile, follow us on YouTube or download us on the Spotify or Apple Podcast channel.